Hello and welcome to web programming lab exercises. So in this tutorial we are going to consider the Termwork 2, in which we will try to implement HTML5 drop-down menu with CSS3 and bootstrap. So there are two approaches for working out with this Termwork. So the first approach is using CSS3. So in this tutorial we are going to see the Termwork being executed using CSS3. So we'll directly jump into the coding part and see how this could be worked out. So here it is. So as usual we have HTML tag and then the head section, and in the head I have given a title called as drop down example using CSS, and after that we have written a huge amount of styles, CSS styles. So let us go down and see the HTML part first, and then later we'll come back and see what CSS rules we have written here. Let us go down here, and in the body section I've written a center tag so that the entire content appears at the center of the web page. And after that I have created a division with a class called as dropdown, and then I have a button here with a class dropbtn, and then one more division after this, and we have given a class called as dropdown content, and in that particular division we have added 3 anchor tags with HTML, CSS and JavaScript as the values, and we have specified href to be equal to hash. Upon clicking, it will redirect to the same page. So this is what our HTML content is all about. You can add more anchor tags to have more content in the drop-down menu. So we'll go back to our styles and see what CSS stylings we are adding here. First of all, we are trying to give CSS properties for the button that we have created there. So that's why we are targeting dropbtn using the class name dropbtn, and we are setting up the background color of this button to be equal to lighter green color, that is hash 4CAF50, and then color white indicates the color of the text on the button, that is we are sticking it to be white. And padding, so the padding specifies the space around the button, that we are sticking it to be 16 pixels, and font size of the text on the button is set to be 16 pixels, and then we are setting up the border to be equal to none, and cursor pointer indicates what type of cursor needs to be displayed once we take our cursor onto the respective HTML element. So here in this case it is just a normal mouse pointer. Okay. Coming down, we are writing the styling for the dropdown class. So it is dot dropdown. We are setting up the position of this particular division to be equal to relative. So the position property specifies the type of positioning method used for an element. So we can position the elements with 5 different position values, that is static, relative, fixed, absolute or sticky, and display inline block. So this will make the entire division to be displayed in a single line and in a block fashion. Okay, so we'll go to the next styling property, that is drop-down content. So this CSS property is applied to the content once we take our cursor onto the button, and the content appears with these following CSS rules. So initially we should not be able to display the content of the drop-down, that's why display none, and again we are setting up the position to be equal to absolute, and we are setting up the background color to be equal to light pink color, that is #FFCC, and the minimum width that we are specifying for this particular division to be equal to 160 pixels. Okay, and then we have the box shadow property. So box shadow indicates the property that attaches one or more shadows for an element. Okay, so this takes 4 values, in fact 5 values. The first 4 values indicates edge offset, that is horizontal offset and vertical offset, blur and spread respectively, and the 5th value indicates the color. So here in our case the vertical offset and the blur are specified as 8 pixels and 16 pixels. So here vertical offset indicates the vertical offset of the shadow, and the blur indicates the blur radius, that is when the number is higher the content or the HTML element appears to be more blurred, or the shadow appears to be more blurred. And the color that we are specifying here is using RGBA method, that is red, green, blue and alpha. So here are the 4 values, that is 0, 0, 0 and 0.2. So RGB values are 0, 0, 0 and 0.2 indicates the alpha value. So alpha here indicates the opaqueness of the shadow. Okay, here we have set it to be 0.2. And after this we have set the Z index. So Z index indicates the stack order of an element. So we can stack more than one element over one another, and we can understand its order using the Z index property. So here we have set the Z index to be equal to 1, so that the content appears to be a little farther from the button that we are creating. Okay, so after this we have one more CSS rule, that is for drop down content A. So this is for links inside the drop down. So we have created the anchor tag in the drop down content. So for them this is the CSS rule. So color is black, that is nothing but the text in the drop down appears to be in black color, and we are setting up the padding to be equal to 12 pixels and 16 pixels, and we are not performing any text decoration. We can set the style, size and all those things using text decoration. We are initially setting it to be none, and then we are displaying this content to be in a block fashion. And then after this we have one more CSS rule. So it is targeting the drop down content using dot drop down content, and after that it is specifically targeting the anchor tag. Upon hover action we are trying to change the background color. So once we move our cursor onto the content of the drop down, so this is the color that appears, that is #FFF0B3. Okay, and then next we are again targeting the drop down and drop down content. So once we move the cursor onto the button we should be able to see the drop down content. That is why we have written this CSS property, that is drop down :hover indicates once this hover action is performed on the HTML element, that is button, then it should display the block, that is the drop down content should be displayed in a block fashion. Okay, and then next we are writing one more CSS rule here to change the background color of the drop down button when the drop down content is shown. Okay, so what should happen here? So once I move my cursor onto the button, it is not just displaying the drop down content, but it is also changing the color of the button as well. Okay, So that is why dot drop down colon hover dot drop btn. Okay, so on taking the mouse cursor onto the button, target this particular element and add this particular CSS property to it. Okay, so here we are changing the background color to be equal to #3e8e41. So it is just a bit of darker green as compared to the original color of the button. Okay, so you can play around with the colors if you want. You can change these hexadecimal values and we can see how this will affect. Okay, so we'll directly go here and run this program and see how this will work out. Yeah, you can see here we have a button here with a green color and the name of the button is Web Technologies, which is placed at the center of the page. So once I move my cursor onto this, you can see the drop down with the pink background and the three values that I have listed are HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Now once I move my cursor onto the content of the HTML element, the background color is being changed. Okay, that is what we have seen in the CSS style tag. Okay, so this is how the HTML drop down works. Okay, so once I move my cursor, the color of the button is also getting changed. Now the color is lighter green, and once I move my cursor, the color of the button is a bit darker. Okay, and you can play around with the colors as I've said and change the colors. You can increase the number of content of the drop down and check how it works. Okay, so thank you for watching.